you're good to go.
Excellent. Thanks, Chris. Okay, welcome everyone. I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee of Tuesday, March 1st, 2022. It is 1:02 p.m. and I apologize for a slightly late start. We were to have 5 items on our agenda today, but item number 1, a resolution authorizing the partnership between the city and Rec Desk is going to remain tabled for this finance agenda and city council's agenda this week. It sounds like so we won't be addressing that today because there's no new information. So we can go ahead and kick right off with item number 2, a resolution. Oh, excuse me, I better call the roll. All right. Present and accounted for from City Council, we have myself, Liz Mealy, and Randy Allison. Randy, do you know, just occurs to me, if Eric Biter is planning to be absent today?
I don't. I haven't heard from him, actually.
Me neither.
I'll give him a quick call.
Thanks, Janice. Okay. And Randy, you and I can cover it, but you know.
Sure.
Chris, if you see him show up, will you please let us know? All right. So present from City Council currently, we have Liz Mealy and Randy Allison. From the administration, we have Chief Snyder, Mayor Slaughter, Chris Black from IT, obviously, John Sander from the engineer's office. Oh, I see Bonnie Katz there. Sorry, Bonnie, from City Council as well. And Skip Memmy from Community Development, Janice Frank from the City Clerk's office, Joe Pavlak from Finance. I see a window for Adam Winder, and it's possible that includes several other people. And I'm thinking that that's Peg Woodring on the city landline calling in. Anyway.
Excuse me, Liz. Eric said that he communicated with Adam, but he forgot to tell you that he won't be on today.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Janice. Okay, all right then. Item number 2 is a resolution awarding the purchase of splash pad project purchase to Vortex USA Incorporated. Mr. Sanders, that's kind of a cryptic title, but I'm assuming you can explain the actual item to us.
Sure. So good afternoon, everybody. What this is for, this is to initiate the splash pad at Shaw Park. So this had to be split up into 2 segments, so to speak. Purchase the products now, and then I have to bid the project out. If this passes, I would bid the project out very soon after this gets awarded, if it gets awarded. This is made. I have a stamp plans from Vortex right now that are unstamped. They have to be stamped by a PE. Once this gets awarded, they will send me the stamped set of plans. Then I will bid them out on. Excuse me, I'm a little under the weather today. On pen bid. We had to do that after myself and the gentleman from Vortex and Austin, our solicitor, reviewed it. It was determined that we had to bid it out ourselves. So that's the way we'd have to do it. Just adds one little step to the process. No big deal at all. Anyway, if this purchase order gets passed, this would set us up for a fall 2022 install and basically be ready to use the splash pad in spring, summer of 2023. This purchase order is for $206,867.61. It includes all, so if we had a meeting about this about a month ago. Everything you see on that splash pad is included in this purchase order. All the fancy water features above, the filtration system, the controls, everything. If this passes, that's basically the go-ahead that we're going to do it. With the splash pad project, about $40,000 worth of water line, fresh water and gray water to and from the splash pad are required, and another roughly $10,000 worth of electric. I can bundle them in with the project when I put it out to bid, if this gets passed. This was reviewed extensively by Solicitor Austin White. Let me know if there's any questions.
Sounds good. Randy, any questions from you?
But yeah, I have a few. And it's in some of the language here, which we didn't have before when we reviewed this at, that I recall, at Public Works, but this, under the statement of work, there's some of the bullet points, like the fourth one down. Actually, there's four in a row here, and it uses the language, the startup configurations can include, but are not limited to the following items. When they say can include, does that mean it will include all of that, or I know it's kind of getting down into the.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Let me look at it. Give me a second. I'm looking at it too.
I guess what you're trying to figure out, Randy, is if there's an extra charge for making certain that they include those items.
Yeah, they can include. Does that mean we're not going to get that unless we?
This, I guess, I could compare it to the other one, but it might have been because this was originally bundled as here's $500,000 package to buy it and install it. They may have changed that to can because of the fact that I have to bid it out. So that it possibly could have been what it is there. That's possible.
Okay.
But we still do have, I've spoke to the gentleman from Vortex. We still do have full support, full training and everything. It's just we have to bid it out ourselves due to PA and city bidding requirements. So we still have all the full service from Vortex. All the items that Mike from Vortex discussed a month ago on the Public Works call.
Okay. And so when we're still under that, well, if you go to the quote section, it's the second one down there, is where we were at, under statement of work. The certified installation technician, a certified technician for up to a maximum of 12 hours, which I think we talked about before, but then if you go down to other clauses under quote, it says, what was that? Oh, that's about the fourth bullet point down.
Okay.
It's the startup configuration duration is usually about 8 hours, and the training is usually 4 hours, which makes sense. There's your 12, but a working day is equal to 8 hours. Up to 10 hours may be tolerated at the discretion of the Vortex technician. Additional hours will be invoiced. So
I can check on those items, Randy, for if there's any extra costs that get incurred in the event that we go over these hours. I can check on that.
Yeah, and it's probably minor. I just wondered, what they might be, referencing there as far as the hours. It's just something I couldn't figure out for myself. And they talked about, there's a section for loading and unloading. Is that something we provide? The loading and unloading?
What page are we on there, if you don't mind me asking? I haven't done this guy.
That was under the quotes also.
Okay.
Where was that?
I did see that before somewhere too.
Yeah. Can't find it.
While you look for, I will say, if we put this purchase order in, let's just say it goes in Friday, I call them, we pay them at first. I call them 20, I think it's 30% up front. They start building and gathering these products immediately, and they call me in a couple of weeks and say, John, where do you want them shipped to? So that's how the process works. We store them, and simultaneously I'm pulling the advertisement, the bid package together, not pulling it together, I already have it essentially, but getting ready to advertise it. So that's kind of the process there.
I should have marked it, but I didn't. But I guess you could ask them about that, if they haven't referenced it already. But there was something in there about we would provide loading and unloading. So I just didn't know.
I will look into it and get back to you guys by Thursday.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
One more thing that they stressed was important, Vortex. It's very important. They have done, I think I typed 7,000. It's actually, Vortex has done about 3,000 of these across the US, and I think into Canada too.
Great.
But anyway, they stress that a fall install is important, that we can, in the event there's any issues, work them out in the spring, so it's good to go come summertime. So
great.
So, and when I do bid this out, I've myself and Vortex and Austin have spoken all together, actually, and I have 3 or 4 or 5 Vortex certified installers. I'm going to make that a requirement to bid on the project. You need to be a Vortex certified installer to build this, basically.
Got all the bases covered.
Yep.
Mhm.
Try to.
So the anticipation is that Vortex will be one of the firms that bids on the install?
No, Vortex doesn't, they aren't contractors. They work with several contractors that they like, and that doesn't quite satisfy, bidding requirements, obviously. So that's why we have to bid out. So the original price of, what was it, 507?
Mhm.
It's very likely that, let's just say 207 for products, another 300,000 for construction. That 300,000 could actually come down. It's very
Right.
likely. I won't elaborate, but I'm just saying it's very likely that could come down a little bit.
Okay. But then you say additionally, we have,
About $50,000 worth of freshwater and wastewater lines, another 10 grand worth of electrical work.
Mhm.
got it. And we cannot locate this such that there already are wastewater and freshwater lines servicing the area?
They are near to the area. It's just a matter of which direction we want to go with them. I've been working with the water authority on that, kind of picking and choosing the correct path. So
So you're just saying basically running pipes to operate all of these features, not
from Sherman
Not-
Street to the pad is
Got it.
roughly $40,000 worth of work and materials, everything.
got it. Well, it certainly is pretty. Outline for me a little bit what the city's plan. I have not been at the public works meetings where you've discussed this previously, and I'd voiced my opinion that I was hoping we would spend significantly less than this on. I was hoping that we would get more than one splash park, but spend significantly less than this on any one splash park. Why have we decided to go with, I guess, with something of this scope, and what are our plans for maintaining it and, protecting it from vandalism, et cetera, all the,
Sure.
the general with parks equipment?
So I purposely picked products that were tall and mostly metal, almost all metal, for as in regards to vandalism. Maintenance is about a half an hour, 45-minute process every day. Someone goes by, cleans off the pad of any debris, and that's about it. There's once or twice a year, there are 2 50-gallon tanks that have chlorine, and I forget what the other chemicals off the top of my head, that run the filtration system. Other than that, it's hands off. The pad, the splash pad, if you're looking at the picture by chance, on either side of the ellipse, there's buttons that turn on. If that button's not pushed, after 4 or 5 minutes, the pad turns off completely. Splash pad, no, it doesn't run any water. It's not doing anything. It's just sitting there. Also, if it starts raining, there's a sensor. If it starts raining, shuts off the pad. So, if we say yes, if council folks say yes to this, Vortex sends their certified folks to train the city employees and to also troubleshoot if there's any issues off the bat.
I looked as though I saw that included in the product purchase, correct?
Yep.
To the tune of, was it maybe, it looked like it was around $8,000. It wasn't specifically called out, but I think the services line on the final bill was 7,800.
Yep.
But I mean, so it seems like a fairly full service operation, obviously with the exception of the fact that it can't be as full service as it would have been.
Yeah.
But
And
but we're
this thing's pretty good size. I mean, we're talking about 82 by 40. So it's pretty good size splash pad.
yeah, oh no, and I'm sure it will absolutely be a destination. I guess I think what in my mind I was picturing was something more like a fountain you could wait in, a smaller install, and something that we could put in multiple locations around the city so that we could really kind of serve the whole community. But
I can add to that for one, Liz. I know Skip and community development are also looking now at. Skip has been working with this gentleman from Vortex a little bit. And some initial discussions to possibly look to go over in Newberry with one as well. So I won't obviously steal his thunder, but I know he was looking to possibly do that. I don't know if Skip's on the phone now. I think he is, but.
Hey, Randy, jog my memory. How much have we allocated for splash pads currently in that rec budget?
In the ARPA money?
Yeah, ARPA funds.
I think
It was about 600, right?
It was what?
It was about 600, wasn't it?
I believe you're right. Yeah.
It was 600, Liz.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, we'll have that discussion later in the meeting, John, but I think we have currently maxed out the budget for splash park allocation unless we're sort of reconsidering. So in terms of how long is this equipment rated for? I know that all of our, general parks playground equipment, generally speaking, I think it's recommended to be replaced within 15 years of purchase.
Yeah. Every single. Sorry, I'm a little upset to my stomach. I apologize. Every single element on that pad has warranty, and they vary depending on what part they are. So if I talk real slow and get to it, I can tell you maybe within a reasonable amount of time. Up to it'll come to me. I don't have the handy here for that, but I'll tell you what. I'll give you your answers for your so as not to spend a lot of time here.
Right,
I'll get your
right.
answers on the warranty Thursday. I have them here. Just might take a couple minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I don't need it immediately. It's not so much warranty that I'm asking though. I'm assuming with this equipment as with, I'm assuming with this equipment as with any kind of playground equipment we purchase, there's kind of like a useful life, which is different from a warranty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so generally speaking, playground equipment, they say it must be replaced, but it should be replaced within, I think, about 15 years. So I'm asking what the useful life is on this equipment.
Yeah. I think Randy, did you ask that question when we were on the call a month ago? I don't remember how the Vortex gentleman answered it. I don't know if you say that again, Randy.
You mean in the Public Works meeting?
Yeah. I think you asked him the same question.
Yeah.
As far as how long they last.
I thought he said 20 years.
Yeah, I don't recall if you look at, I sent you guys a link to that video from about a month ago. In fact, I can probably find that for you rather quickly too.
Randy, it was 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the equipment's rated for 20 years. I mean, obviously not warranty for 20 years, but rated for 20 years of use.
Right. Yeah.
The last 20 years. That's good. That's better than I was thinking it would be. So that's excellent news. And because I'm assuming in 20 years, as tends to be the way of things, the splash pad will look pretty outmoded anyway, right? So
Most likely, yeah.
for better or for worse, that's how it goes anymore. The only thing that stood the test of time is the Knoebels. But yeah, well, it's certainly, I mean, looks like a blast, John. What's its capacity in terms of kids?
Someone else asked that too. I don't have a number, but the rendering is to scale, and give me 1 second. I will count it for you.
Well, I mean, if this is the max capacity, then we are sorely under what we're likely to see in terms of usage when we open it.
I mean, you're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, about 20 some people on that pad. It is fully ADA compliant as well. So there's 20 some people, 20, 22 on that pad itself.
Okay. I mean, I would predict we probably would have hundreds of children trying to use it simultaneously the first summer we open it. It's possible I'm wrong, but we are not planning to gate it or in any other way secure it, right? So it's open to the public.
As of now, no. It would be open to the public. There's
Great. I think that's exactly how it should be. I'm not saying that we should do that differently. That to
Yep.
be, I'm just asking because yeah. Randy,
there's two things on my end. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you again.
No.
I don't think you were on the call on Public Works. Two things. I have to get a permit from the PA Department of Health, which is located over Water Tower Square in the city of Williamsport. So that should
Right.
not be an issue. I've already been in contact with him. Also, we need a construction permit, just internal from the city, from Joe Girardi and his folks. So
yeah. And those two items will give us our occupancy, or is that something that Vortex is already like a kind of a recommended number of users?
I don't have that number. I could get that for you for Thursday.
That might, I mean, if you're giving them a call, which it sounds like you are, then yeah, why don't you see what the kind of recommended capacity of the unit is. And there may not be such a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Randy?
Bonnie's had her hand up for a little bit.
Bonnie, I'm sorry, I'm not even remotely looking to see who's got their hands up. Bonnie, why don't you address what you've discussed in Public Works so far? That would be helpful.
Well, John has more or less answered the questions, but there are a couple of things that came to mind afterwards. And one of them was looking at the chemicals. Don't we have to have a certified person to do this? And is Kayla certified? Do you know if she's certified?
Kayla, are you on the call by chance?
I think,
She wasn't, right?
yeah, I
No.
think,
Yeah, she was skipping because her item wasn't ready anyway.
So I think, that's one thing that we have to address because if you're having that, we do have to have a certified person to take care of that. And I think we all realize that. The other two things that I just have questions, okay, for the aesthetics surrounding it. There will be no lights around this, right? Because there is no, I can't picture lights at Shaw. Randy, Liz, do you know if there were lights at Shaw at all?
I mean, Bonnie, I think that there are street lights on the edges, you know what I mean? But I don't, to the best of my recollection, I don't think there are any substantial internal lights. We did have lights at the pool though, didn't we, Randy?
I don't think we had lighting there.
Is that okay? I remember a heavy discussion about lighting at the pool, but I can't remember whether it wound up that we had some or we didn't. I don't know,
Because
Bonnie.
the
I'll
other
have to
thing,
think about that there today.
if you had, eventually maybe down the line, we could see about lights or something. I'm also thinking maybe we can have a camera there in the park to also, take a camera from somewhere else that we have in one of the parks to place it there. And the other thing that I'm looking at, the layout of this, it would be nice if we could get Penn College maybe to do a couple of benches around there so parents with small kids can sit there and watch their kids.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree.
I'm just looking at that. It would be make it more comfortable for people with families that just want to have their kids run around there and have a place for them to sit.
And we are getting that donation of benches from Penn College, Councilwoman Katz. So that
Are they going to do it for Shaw?
It could be for anywhere. Yeah, that came to council there a little while ago to accept their donation. So we just spoke with Penn College. They're working through those benches. So yes, there's no specific location. So Shaw could be a location for that.
See, I thought it was going to be just for Brandon. That's why, I would like to see if we could have some at Shaw. I think that would just
their
make it.
donation is for anywhere. Yep.
I think it would just look much nicer all the way around too. Family friendly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's several things we can add on here. I mean, there's, a pavilion of some sort. well, down the line, but this kind of is the centerpiece, obviously. But so obviously I agree with you too, Bonnie. It'd be nice to start building this out. And something to that effect.
You're breaking up, John. a little
Yeah.
bit.
Great.
Oh.
But I will add too, moving forward, as we discussed also, as we're thinking about the build out of the rest of the park, we do have working with DCNR on updating our park and open space plan. And so this could, talking to DCNR, they said, the projects we're considering already, for example, the splash park, and then they will include that, as part of their open space plan, and then add on to the additional, not just show up in all of our parks as a whole. So just to say, we can keep that in mind as we move forward, that we are working with DCNR for a comprehensive plan. So some of these items, that we're looking at expanding throughout the park can be part of that as well, with possible funding from DCNR. Moving forward.
Mayor, I'd really like to make sure that we do have cameras present there too. I really would.
Yeah, sure. I
That
can
would be
work
worked
with.
out.
Sure, we can work with Public Works and Public Safety to see if we can get a camera there.
That's
Okay.
all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Bonnie. Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of cameras, but this is a substantial investment, and one that we, as discussed, don't necessarily have any money set aside to maintain or to repair, I suppose, if there were to be any damage to it. But I do think when we're talking about the overall cost of something like this, we also need to then factor in that as an element, the surveillance element and the cost of that surveillance. That is to say how we plan to keep an eye on that camera, where we're installing it, et cetera, to make certain that we've got a good view of the facility. It would also strike me that at least initially we would be, and obviously this is more than a year off, but after install, when we open this facility, I think that we will almost certainly need to have some kind of staffing there, possibly for the whole first summer, at least for the initial couple of weeks, because I have a hard time picturing a scenario where this isn't exceptionally crowded at the outset. And I think it would just be in the best interest of the city, especially in terms of just protecting the asset, to make certain that we have someone there to keep an eye and make sure that it's being utilized properly, that there aren't, fights breaking out over things, et cetera, et cetera. When you get a lot of people in a small space, tempers can tend to flare. So, just looking toward implementation, I think that would be one thing that we should bear in mind. I would still say that my vote remains for smaller parks spread a bit more throughout the city instead of, and I understand that the administration is planning more than one park, but it seems to me that we can get a pretty nice neighborhood facility for significantly under $600,000, and that we would be more capable of taking care of that facility moving forward. John Sander, what surface is this? Is this poured concrete?
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah, you go in and out. Your Wi-Fi.
I turned my video. No, I have my Wi-Fi off. You hear me? Okay. Yeah. This is simply I think it's 6-inch thick, if I'm not mistaken, 6-inch thick concrete. There are treatments you can put on the concrete, but they wear off rather quickly. So we were urged not to paint them, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. I think
So
that's why. Yeah.
It's bare concrete. Yep.
Okay. So bare concrete, very handicapped accessible. Will we need to be concerned about access from any sort of walkway in terms of maintaining that accessibility?
Good question. Where's my location at? So we'd be roughly within, depending on which way you go, 10 feet of walkways through the middle of Shaw Park. So I could definitely put some sidewalks that approach it. Rather easily.
Yeah, I think that would have to be part of the final bid to me. If
Absolutely,
we're putting in a handicapped accessible facility, we don't want a couple of days of muddy rain and then somebody comes by to use it and can't get through the lawn.
Yep.
So, it seems to me like that would be a wise thing. So what have we heard here so far? Bonnie, you suggested security cameras. I suggested staffing at the outset and sidewalk access to directly to the splash pad. We heard a 20-year lifespan on the individual items. And
Benches.
and benches, yeah, and other, amenities. I think that make that. I mean, John, I would not necessarily say a pavilion so much as perhaps we should be planting some shade trees around the facility for the same reason, because this is a very exposed facility, and if you're a parent and you're watching your kid play, it would be helpful, I think, to have to make certain that it's located in such a way that either we take advantage of existing shade trees at Shaw, or we're planting shade trees that are fast growers so that they'll be providing some kind of shade in the next couple of years. It would seem like it might be in the city's best interest to try to do that this year, so that once again, we've got a bit more of a start on things next year when the install goes in, or when it's installed and ready to rock. Okay, Randy, Bonnie, did you have any other points?
No, and maybe we can get trees donated.
I think that's certainly possible. I mean, we do that tree donation program within Brandon every year. Derek, are we doing that this year, the Arbor Day event?
As far as I know, we are. Yeah, Randy, has your wife said anything related to that? I haven't seen anything officially, but from my understanding, yes, we are.
Yeah, no, they want to do Arbor Day this year.
Randy, would Deb add a couple of slots at Shaw Place?
Pardon me?
I said, would Deb be willing to add a couple of slots at Shaw Place to that
Sure. Yep.
Arbor Day donation schedule?
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, I think, all of those things are sort of necessary. And I'm still not 100%, John, I didn't see it in this drawing, and I'm sure that it's in some other piece of information you provided to us, but where precisely within Shaw Place is this lying?
Okay, so the old pool, if you're looking at a plan view, a map, so to speak,
Yep.
it's oriented the correct way.
That's what I'm wondering, yeah.
Good.
If you're looking at a plan view, at a map of Shaw Place.
Yeah, so if you're looking at Google Street or Google Maps or something, if you're looking at the old pool, and right to the south of that is the baseball field, right to the east of that, to the right, so to speak, is the playground. If you actually, in the email I sent to you guys, or you might not have it, but essentially the grass lot between the playground, the baseball field, and the old pool.
Okay,
It's flat. It's very flat. Yep.
Okay, all right, understood. That was about where I was picturing it, just trying to kind of locate it a little better in my mind. And I think that something like this will make a good improvement to the east end, and the beginnings of some improvements to Shaw Place Park. But Derek, it sounds as though you have it in mind, and of course it is true that Shaw Place needs more general attention rather than just a splash pad to really make it a destination park at this point, I'd say. So we need to revitalize the whole park, not just put in a new feature and call it quits.
And there's one more item I wanted to add, Liz, if you don't mind, real quick. So right where this is going, in the event this gets passed Thursday, I can, obviously the city paving contract just got awarded. I can add some connectivity and access to that spot to set this all up. So just wanted to point that out.
Through the paving contract.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, because I guess all the Shaw Place walkways are bituminous, aren't they?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, sure, John. Yeah, we'll personally, were it me, I might wait until we've also awarded the RFP, because I think we might want to compare and contrast the cost of making it part of the RFP to the cost of adding it to the paving contract. My assumption would be the paving contract would be cheaper, but might not be unwise to double check that. But okay. Are there any other comments from anyone out there? And so, John, you're going to check and make sure that all training aspects are included in the purchase price that we're okaying right now.
I have all these notes jotted down to ask him as soon as I'm off the call. Already.
Excellent. Just double checking.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. then in that case, Randy, I think I don't intend to vote for this as it currently is. I don't know if you want to forward it to the full body of council with no recommendation to encourage further discussion. But I would be uncomfortable with a positive vote, and I'm going to go ahead and assume that you might be uncomfortable with a negative vote. So,
Okay, well then, yes.
and there only being two of us, sorry.
I'll make a motion that we pass it with no recommendation then.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, look at that spirit of cooperation, Randy. I appreciate it though. Thank you, John. It is a neat project. My only qualm is that I think that we could, service more neighborhoods with smaller assets, and I wish the administration had considered that. All right, moving on to the next item on our agenda, item number 3, a resolution awarding the Brandon Park Ball Field Design Services to Larson Design Group. John, you're back up.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Like I said, I'm a little uneasy in my stomach. Give me take a sip of Gatorade.
Sure.
Get your baby.
Have you got that nasty flu that everybody's getting?
No, I don't got a flu. I don't know. Well, anyway, let's not discuss that.
Okay. Never mind.
So what this would be the start of fixing up the Brandon Park ball fields. So if you were to say yes to this, we'd be hiring Larson Design Group to design the Brandon Park ball fields, the 2 southern fields. And if you have the document in front of you, it is let me pull it up actually too. All I have is the printout. Give me 1 second. So their design services are for $45,810, and that's full service. You may say, well, that's kind of high. Well, there is a large amount of drainage design required for this project. I was talking to Larson a little before this meeting. In addition to that, there's what's DEP will require what's called an Npdes permit because the area to be disturbed is over 1 acre.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you see a large fee of $45,000. The intention is to get the fields just back into playable condition with new playing surface and new drainage and add alternates for scoreboard, fencing, etc. That's the intention. And that's about all I have. Let me know if you have any questions.
Okay, Randy, Bonnie, do you want to, I'm assuming Public Works is probably, no, actually, maybe you haven't seen this yet. Randy, do you have any questions?
I did have a couple here. On task number 3, the electrical design. Do we know right now whether we have adequate electrical service there, John?
I don't know off the top of it. I don't know if Adam or Scott was on the horn that would know that off the top of their head by chance, or.
I'm sorry, I missed that question.
Adam, I wondered, task 3 on the Larson design for Brandon Little League, well, the drainage and all that kind of stuff, but the electrical design, they reference whether we have adequate, that we should make sure that we have adequate electrical service there. Do you know offhand that we do? We have updated or whatever we need capacity wise there?
Throughout Brandon Park, yes. At the ballpark itself, I'd have to verify. We've never had access to the Little League built facilities themselves.
Okay.
That was all maintained under wall.
It says,
we find out.
all right, to quote what Larson Design has here, that it's assumed existing electrical service has adequate capacity to feed the proposed equipment. The design of a new electrical service and or utility coordination is not included in in the price. So, yeah, that's one thing.
And I know we upgraded a lot of the electrical there at the tennis courts, which isn't very far from
Right, yeah.
the fields. At the tennis courts, we definitely have the ability to pipe over to the
Okay.
baseball field facility if we need to.
Okay.
Mhm.
And I just, the Mpdes permitting process. John, could you just talk about that a little bit? And
Yeah, so because if you just measure the area, the fields, which I have and they have as well, Larson has, the area to be disturbed is over an acre. Once that happens, it triggers what's called an Npdes permit. So it's a permit required by DEP. And I think in this particular case, they delegate it down to like Cumming County Conservation District, which looks like they do. Just an extra permitting requirement for erosion control during construction and any potential stormwater runoff after it's built.
Mhm.
As you can see in the tasks there that Larson laid out there. It is rather intensive, so that's why, like I mentioned earlier, that the design costs are somewhat high, but
Okay.
without, you have to do it. It's I know that Larson reached out to the DEP and the county, and it is required. So
Okay. And Larson, under that, the very first bullet there, Larson Design will prepare and submit the permit package to the County Conservation District.
that's
With
correct.
the understanding, they say at the time of this proposal that whatever PAG 01 document consists of will be acceptable for this project. So not being familiar with what those are.
That's a DEP permit document. They're assuming that's the acceptable one.
My assumption was that they've reached out to
Yeah.
DEP.
So they already might have some understanding there. Okay.
Yep. They did reach out. They did. I spoke to them. They did.
Okay, great. All right. Okay, great. That's all I had right off the bat. So
And all very good questions. Thanks, Randy. Let me flick back through here. Bonnie, did you have anything that you wanted to ask? As long as you're here and as long as I'm not paying good attention to who has their hand up. Was there any point you'd like to make, Bonnie, about this?
Not at this time.
Okay,
I,
got it.
I'm more interested in making sure that the drainage problem is fixed.
Okay.
That's where that's where I want to see this done. And
Yeah, well-
I don't have the resolution sitting in front of me. I have not been able to get it. So I'm just calling Janice to see if she could leave a hard copy for me.
Got it.
So let me talk you through what they're going to do design wise. So what they're going to do is they're going to do full topo survey with surveyors out there to get a surface of the existing ground. They're going to preliminarily design a new surface for both fields, and then they're going to lay out in CAD and engineering stuff. They're going to lay out a whole new field that drains properly, and they're going to prohibit drainage from the north, from the higher baseball field on the north, from coming into the smaller field. So that's kind of it in a nutshell as far as the drainage goes.
Is that going to generate more water than we have the capacity to handle at that small kind of inlet / wetland area that we have?
I don't know without them starting to design. They're an initial rendering that I think you guys saw a few weeks back showed drainage along the outfield of both the Little League fields to capture the drainage from the north. So without them starting, I can't answer that.
Yeah, I guess all I'm wondering is if we're liable to wind up having to put money into additional water retention somewhere related to the fact that that the water will be coming off of these fields. You know what I mean?
There shouldn't be. We're not increasing the impervious. We're keeping it exact. We're replacing in kind. You're just controlling the flow to the correct spot. That's all.
Got it. And so we're not putting turf down for any reason instead of.
No, no, ma'am.
Okay, and we are not, as part of this contract, we're not touching that upper field in the slightest.
That's correct. We are
Okay.
not.
And this doesn't involve even, I mean, this is exclusively drainage. It doesn't even involve design for, say, fencing.
It does. So if you look, yeah, up front, when in the scope, it mentions that design for regrading the drainage, and then additional items to be included as adults include scoreboard, fencing, dugouts, press box, concessions, and some parking, paving, etc. They can be added. Say again?
So those are not included in this number. Those are add alternates.
Those would be add alternates that could be bid out during bidding, but we don't have to accept them, obviously. So, you know.
But what I'm saying is they're not preparing the design for those items. So currently, any sort of bid packet they put together for us wouldn't include those items as part of the packet, or it would.
I'll answer that verbatim. Additional items will be included in the design and will be included in the bid docs as add alternates, and those are those items I just mentioned: scoreboard, fencing.
Okay.
Dugouts, press box. Yep.
Sorry about that, John. Okay, good.
problem.
So we will have a fully spec'd out ballpark, so to speak. Are they looking at, I mean, they obviously will look at how much of the existing material there could be reused?
I can't answer that. I mean, as far as I'm sure that the dirt can be reused, just needs to be regraded.
Yeah. No, I think I mean the outbuildings, the fencing,
Oh.
etc.
It's my understanding that this project is to get the fields back into playable condition. We will also simultaneously be getting prices for some other, let's call them wish list items, but it's up to, you know, I guess, administration and council to agree on those. My thought and feeling would be get the fields to a playable condition, and you can add additional items down the road.
Got it. To the financial question, then, the whole idea of playable condition versus picking items off a wish list. Has the administration approached anyone else in the community about partnering on this sort of project to get Little League back within city limits? You know, have we talked to the chamber or to the county or to the foundation?
I have not, but I'll defer to anyone else that's on the call.
Yeah, I'm looking. I see Derek on here. I guess that was primarily a question for him.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that again, Councilwoman? I missed the beginning of it.
Have we reached out to any other entities within the community that might share our interest in having Little League play back within Williamsport, to see if they'd be willing to help fund either this, not this specific item, not the design item, but the either the effort to make the fields playable, or some of the kind of wish list items that John Sander was just referring to, the outbuildings, new fencing, scoreboard, all the things that aren't foreseen in the initial drainage project at the ball fields.
I guess I've had some unofficial conversation with the chamber. I'm on their board, but nothing official as far as any type of donation. Of course, they have their separate park project going on. I've not spoken to the foundation specifically about this. I have spoken to DCNR, as I mentioned during the splash park conversation. And it is possible, depending on timing of things, as we're updating that plan, that DCNR, this, additional elements of the ball fields could potentially be funded through the DCNR grants. And so we're going after those. So, go ahead.
That maxes out at $250,000 a year, right?
The DCNR grants,
Yeah.
I'm not sure, because they said it opens up when we start to include some green infrastructure, that opens up some additional monies. So I think it might possibly be able to go above the 250, but I'm not sure until we have the comp plan updated.
Right.
But
yeah.
So for example, in the Harrisburg area, they did 5 parks in 18 months. So it's a pretty quick process once
You mean in terms of
Relatively quick.
they did a comp plan for 5 parks in 18 months, or they redid 5?
Yeah, after the comp plan was completed, they actually upgraded 5 parks in 18 months. So
Fantastic.
DCNR is ready. That's why we're trying to, as quickly as we can, and we're working with Delta on this and our consultant and DCNR simultaneously to get our comp plan updated. First step is plan. Anyway, say all that to say, it's a possibility there. I've not, as of right now, reached out to the foundation and, just some other general conversations around the community, but no official ask as of this point. But we are still going after grants, though, related to the parks.
Okay. The only reason I ask is because this is another item that makes me uncomfortable seeing Williamsport sort of, well, in this case, unilaterally supporting the ballpark to the tune of what is likely to come closer to being $1 million. Although I think right now the expenditure we're foreseeing is about $650 or $700 for the fields and the drainage. While I don't disagree that I'd love to see Little League play back in Williamsport, and while I think that it would be great to see active ball fields in Brandon or at Shaw, one or the other, the price tag on it especially is something that's kind of unilaterally being pursued by Williamsport when it seems as though there are a number of entities that might have some level of interest in seeing this happen. Strikes me as kind of egregious. So once again, I won't be supporting this item in committee, or likely in front of the full body of council unless I hear an argument that sways me. It's not that I oppose the development. It's simply that I think that the price tag is high enough that we should be looking for maybe additional investors in the space to make it a reality. And my fear, of course, is that Bonnie, to your point, making the fields playable is clearly paramount, but that when we make the fields playable, they won't be truly playable because they won't have the other amenities that Wall would require to utilize them to their fullest extent. And so, the $650,000 will be really just the beginning of a slew of expenses there that I think will wind up with the city spending a lot of funding on a relatively small portion of users within the community. That's not to say that's not sometimes appropriate, but I'm not certain it's the best bang we could get for our buck in terms of providing the most benefit to every user out there. But like I said, with the exception of those questions, and I think you've answered pretty much all of them, John, the contract itself looks solid to me. The expense is obviously higher than we would have liked, but given some of the permitting that we're triggering, not unexpected. Will Chris Kaiser, John, be at the council meeting on Thursday?
He asked if you want him there, he can be there.
I think Randy, what do you think?
I think there'll be some questions. Yeah.
I think it wouldn't be just so that we can, I think kind of wrap our heads around. We've seen the renderings, the kind of spec renderings they've done of the new facility, but I think it would be helpful for us to understand what specifically is included with this contract and what isn't, and maybe for Chris to kind of spec out for us some of the additional expenditures once we complete the design guidelines, sort of where we go from here. I think that'd be useful.
Liz, I have a quick question for John.
Please.
John, water can have a mind of its own. And if we're going to work on this drainage problem and straighten out Brandon, would any of this affect the homes in the surrounding area?
Not that I can think of, no.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
I would have to say, let me put it this way. Larson Design Group designed the second ballpark over in South Williamsport for Little League World Series. I'm pretty sure they're confident. I'm pretty confident they can handle this one.
Oh, it's not that I don't feel that they can't handle it. I just, like I said, water has a mind of its own sometimes. And, once this drainage problem is fixed, how is that drainage problem? I just don't want to see the homes on the outskirts being affected by it.
Right, well, and to Bonnie's point, Brandon Park is an exceptionally wet park.
Right.
You know, that just is the way it is. There's tons of water underground there. So I guess, even
I
if it
think
were
you
to,
call it Graffius Run, don't you?
well, we've all been what I think was it Homemade Days, Randy, where like Homemade Days was kind of half submerged a couple of years ago over there. I think the question is, John, just whether when we and what we'll ask Chris on Thursday is whether diverting water that would ordinarily kind of sit and sink in those fields will impact the drainage issues we have elsewhere in the park. That doesn't make it a deal breaker. It's just a question of understanding the implications for the future for events in the park and things like that.
I mean, I guess if it was easy to take care of, we would have already done that. So I would assume the reason we were getting an engineer is because they can competently manage that water flow.
Right.
So I think it'd be, they can, Chris can certainly give us the nuts and bolts on how that's going to happen. That would be interesting to know anyhow.
Yeah, I'll say. Yeah, hopefully, maybe it's like Graffius Run, where it's small. Anyway,
Might get some ideas there. Huh?
there you go. Okay. All right. Are there any further comments or questions from the administration or other members of council? All right. Hearing none. Randy, can we do no recommendation again?
Betcha. I'll make a motion. We pass this, excuse me, to the full body of council with no recommendation.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Great. Then we have two more items on the agenda. Item number 4, resolution to appoint an environmental review certifying officer. Mr. Memmi, I saw you out there somewhere.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're presenting a resolution to authorize an environmental review officer for the city of Williamsport, community development block grant program, the home program, all the programs that our office initiates using housing and urban development funding. This is a requirement of HUD. It is necessary for the city to appoint this certifying officer to act as the responsible officer to oversee the city of Williamsport's environmental requirements. The certifying officer will assure that all environmental, procedural, and record requirements are fully and properly satisfied, and will oversee or perform all necessary functions required for environmental reviews. We're requesting that the city appoint John Sander, the city engineer, to fill this role. There is no financial impact to the city for this appointment. This requirement was brought to our attention by CEDACOG in their review, and we're presenting it to finance to answer any questions and hopefully have it forwarded to the full body of council. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Randy?
No, actually, I did have one or two, and I called Mr. Memmi yesterday, and it was dealing with any financial impact and things like that. So, and he just addressed that. So
Excellent. Good. Well, it's always exciting to see something with no financial impact. And Mr. Sander, I'm assuming that you feel confident to perform all the duties outlined, correct? Oh, did John take off?
Looks like he left the meeting.
Okay. Consulted with John Sander to make certain that he feels
Yes,
confident.
we did have that discussion. Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. Good. Yeah. If it's a requirement, then it's a requirement, I suppose. But there's no reason for Mr. Sanders should be more than capable, it seems, of taking on this role. And I'm assuming in that case that he is he compensated for his role as a certifying officer through community development as part of his salary?
He
Or is that
already is, he is already receiving some funding through community and economic development through the CDBG program. This will fall in line with that funding that was put in place last year. And the majority of this work will be performed by CEDACOG as our consultant. He'll just be reviewing their submissions because it's a requirement somebody from the city be responsible for that.
Makes sense. Okay, excellent. All right, then I have no further questions. Anyone else out there have anything further? Please speak up if so. All right, hearing nothing. Randy, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion, we pass this to the full body of council with a positive recommendation.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks, Mr.
Thank you.
Mendes. All right.
Thank you.
Good. You're muted, Liz.
Sorry about that. Don't know how I did that one. Getting old, Randy.
Everybody got muted all of a sudden.
Yeah, I'm going to assume it was my fault. Was scanning through the attendees and I probably just clicked the wrong button. Anyway, okay. Does anyone here, Randy, you or anyone else, have any a related item to introduce for the good of the order? And once again, please speak up just in case I'm not looking at you when you have your hand raised.
I do not.
I hear none. Okay, I saw all of public safety on here and I thought for sure there was something coming up. But not hearing that. Chief Monks, could I request that you just give me a call on my cell phone at some point before Thursday's meeting, if you don't mind?
Sure, absolutely.
All right, excellent. Thank you.
And I did have something to bring up, if I may.
Oh, okay, sure. Please
I
go for it.
apologize. I missed the public safety meeting. It got, I wasn't able to get this information out at the public safety meeting, so I apologize for that. But this is in regard to at a previous city council meeting, we had a discussion was brought up about using ARPA funds to replace our turnout gear, our protective equipment. And I just wanted to go over some things, if that's okay. Just give you a rundown on our current situation with our turnout gear. Is that okay? Okay. NFPA 1851 is the standard for the selection, care, and maintenance of the protective ensembles for structural firefighting. And it establishes a maximum service life of 10 years past the manufacturer's date. Each firefighter is initially issued 2 sets of gear, one for frontline use and one for backup. The backup gear is usually kept in their personal vehicle for use on callbacks. Most often, our frontline gear that reaches its maximum service life is pushed back into service as our backup gear. But the backup gear should be held to the same standard as the frontline gear, given that there's a 75% chance to respond to a callback rather than a on-duty incident. The last bulk purchase of turnout gear that we had was in 2012, and that was after the Lonza fire. Lonza paid for it, but we have since then we've purchased gear here and there. A set here, a set there, but right now the majority of our gear is nearing its maximum service life. NFPA also states that the experience suggests that ensembles and their components that are approaching 10 years since the date of the manufacturer date have a higher likelihood of performance deficiencies in multiple areas that can often only be detected by destructive testing. And such performance failures could compromise firefighter safety. Currently, the Bureau of Fire has about 40% of its PPE that is at or beyond the 10-year mark, and many additional sets within a year of that maximum service life. We perform annual inspections as required by NFPA of our PPE, and over the last few years, the PPE has shown considerable deterioration. We currently have no choice but to issue gear to individuals that is out of date or in subpar shape. Due to the budget constraints over the last few years, we've been limited to how many sets of PPE we've been able to purchase and update our firefighters with the newest and safest sets of PPE. So I just wanted to put that out there, let you guys know that there is, we do have issues with our turnout gear, and any consideration for those ARPA funds would be much appreciated. Are there any questions?
And what was the general quote for updating that gear?
For 35 sets of turnout gear would be $196,865.
Okay.
That's the coat, the pants, the bailout kit, the gloves, particulate hoods, helmets, and AB 3000, the Scott face pieces, just the face pieces.
Got it. Understood. And the reason that we don't wish to include this in the general fund budget?
Just due to the amount.
Okay.
And it was discussed at a council meeting about using ARPA funds for it. So
Yeah, no, I think it's loaded. But I'm just trying to kind of, I guess it seems like a poor consideration on our part to continue waiting until there's something, some beneficiary or another to supply the gear and to replace it. So it would seem like we should come up with a slightly better replacement plan moving forward, regardless of whether or not we fund this out of ARPA. Mr. Allison, did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we did discuss it before.
Mm-hmm.
in council, and I think it's a necessity. I mean, we're putting our people at risk with lesser than passable equipment. So I really think we need to address it ASAP, but begin a plan to not let it get to that point in the future through budgeting. I know it's been a problem and we've struggled with that, but we're going to have to be more disciplined to do that, because those kinds of things, what's the price on that to replace that equipment, Chief?
To replace one set per firefighter is about $196,865.
Okay. So, we need
5,000 each, Randy. Yeah.
So we need to look at the numbers and have that to work off of, the age, like we do with our vehicles, with the age, mileage and all of that. So if we could begin to look at it that way from council's perspective, if we could see those kinds of things, then we'd know that, how to budget for that on a yearly basis so that we can regularly change the old out and get the new in.
Sure. And Councilman Allison, I did talk to Platoon Chief Herney, who handles the specs. He does everything with our turnout gear. We call him the gear Nazi. He's on the ball with it, and he did say that he does have a plan, a replacement plan.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and he additionally told me that the time from the time we order the gear to the time we receive it, it's anywhere between 7 and 12 months.
Wow.
Yeah, just like everything, it's all
right.
ended.
Well, it used to be a couple months.
Yeah, yeah. Or even you go down to Susquehanna Fire and, you know, give them the money and you get your gear right done in there pretty much.
Oh, that's nice.
Everything's custom fit now. That's a big thing as well.
Sure.
But so Chief, you're saying we have 70 sets of gear, correct?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
And all of those max out at about 10 years?
Yes, depending on wear and tear, there's a number of components that go into that, but generally NFPA recommends 10 years.
So Randy, I'm hearing that we should be replacing 7 sets annually to the tune of about $40,000 a year.
Mhm.
Right, Chief?
Yes, yes. Now that doesn't necessarily include the face pieces. Face piece is, you know, each person gets a face piece issued to them. Right now, the face pieces that we're using are about the same age, maybe a little bit older than those 10 years.
Got it. Well, Chief, I would say that a good chunk of what would be needed to kind of get this on the ARPA radar successfully might be to try and put together not just what needs to be replaced right now, those 35 sets with the face pieces, but then an ongoing budgetary ask in the fire department. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
So how much it costs every year to replace the amount of equipment that will leave us in a good position in 10 years time, you know,
right,
where we don't have equipment that's grossly out of date. Because that, in order for me to approve, and this is just speaking for me personally, I can't speak for the rest of council, but in order for me to approve taking something out of ARPA funding like this, something that should be a general fund expenditure to me, I would understand that we were building it into the general fund moving forward so that in 10 years, we're not in the same position we're in right now.
Absolutely.
Randy, I don't know if you agree with me on that, but.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. All right, then there you got 2 out of 7. It would look on it much more favorably if you gave us that information. Okay. Anything else to add to that, Chief?
No, ma'am. I'll give you a call when the meeting's over.
Okay. I would actually, if you don't mind, maybe waiting until a little later on today, that'd be good. But yeah, I would appreciate hearing from you. Thank you. Okay. All right. If there are no other additional items, I would take a motion to adjourn.